Welcome, Accomplices. I'm Lynda Norman. I'm a watercolor artist in the beautiful Okanagan Valley in British Columbia, Canada. Thanks for joining me today. We're going to explore adding some white to some paintings that maybe we forgot about the white space to begin with. I think just about everybody that's picked up a brush and painted with watercolor has come up with issues at times where perhaps you could have left a bit more white space on the paper or got a little heavy-handed with the pigment. I know that's my favorite trick. I love rich, deep colors, and sometimes that can get to be a bit more intense than I intended on my page. So there's a couple of things that you can do to brighten things up. First of all, optimally, you would want to leave the white of the paper to sort of show through in areas that kind of make things sparkle and pop, and that's the beauty of watercolor. It's translucent, transparent. For the most part, there are some opaque colors and some other things, but it's what it's designed to to do, is to let that white sort of shine through and enhance the pigments to their best advantage. But we forget sometimes that little rule, and when we do, there are things that you can do to remedy that. And there's gouache. We've explored that, I think, in the past. We may do that again as well coming up, which is an opaque type of watercolor, and it comes in all kinds of colors. There's also Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleedproof White. It's water-based. Some people even call it a watercolor, but it is opaque, very nice and bright white, and it can be applied with all kinds of techniques. And one of the things that I like to do is you can take it straight from the bottle. It's if you can see that, it's kind of like the consistency of a heavy cream, whipping cream perhaps. It's quite beautiful. And I've got some samples here of some paintings that I would have liked to have remembered a bit more of the white rule, but I haven't. So let's see what we can do to brighten them up a tiny bit. This one I did the other day. It's on some really nice 300-pound heavy watercolor paper, and I did it very fluidly, lots of water and things sort of sprayed out. So there's lots of white up here, but I thought down here a bit of white might help to just sort of define and enhance a few things in the darker areas. So let's take a look. I've got a dip pen, a nib pen here. It's one of the options, easy to use. Take a little brush, and you can load your paint, your P.H. Martin's Bleedproof White, straight from the bottle into your brush. And then I like to test it on the side a little bit to get things going. Oh, now I've dropped it. Hang on a second here. Oh, that's not what I intended to do. It was too thick. So now I'm going to have to take that with a brush and feather that into the rest of the painting. I remember in the last video a couple weeks ago I talked about, it's like cooking or driving. There's a lot of moving parts, and if you're prepared and don't panic, you can usually overcome any of the little things that go on. So let's try that again. And I just want the faintest line, and it's just barely coming through, and less is better. You can always add more later if you need to. And because this is kind of very lightly going on, for me it just gives a bit of sparkle and a bit of highlight in the background. There's a bit of a well, it could be a little river or a little brook running through the back here, that I might want to highlight and just pick up some of the, and that's all I need to do. You could even just dip the tip in if you wanted to, and gives you that tiny bit on the tip. Like I said, you don't need a lot, and it just helps to brighten things up a little bit. And even where I blobbed it on the corner there, I think we're okay. If you know, if that still was an issue here and I didn't like that, I could just even add more water and just pull it away. So there's that. Now, because I've got the brush in my hand, and this is a nice fine chisel point blender brush, and rather than take the paint, the P.H. Martin's Bleedproof White, I don't know if I should call it paint or not, from the bottle, I had put some in a little container yesterday, and I'm just going to mist that lightly. And it does reactivate nicely with the water. So you don't have to worry about wasting it. And now I've got it on the tip of this little brush. And here's another painting where, you know, there could have been, you know, a little more brightness happening perhaps in this bottom area here. So again, I'm going to, with a very, very light hand, just touch the surface using my finger to blend it. And I love that it gives that that lightness to the pigments that are perhaps needing a bit of help there. Now, when you've got a more liquidy version of your paint, and we'll try that on the on this brush again, or not brush, the nib pen, and just ever so lightly touching the page as you go. If you know you see something that you've done and it's it looks a bit too harsh, use your finger, blend it back. So just with a few light strokes, the indication of some highlights in the water. And it just kind of brightens things up. You don't need a lot. If I wanted to make a snowy scene, I could certainly add a lot more to the surface of the rocks and into the trees. But for all intents and purposes, that's pretty much all you need. So I like using the brush for the heavier areas. I like loading my dip pen with a more watery wash. Or blend of the P.H. Martin's. Out of the bottle, I think it's just a bit thick and it wants to drip off of the nib more than you'd want it to. Always test it on the side, and then you can add it wherever you think is needing a little bit of lightness. As I said, some people say that if you add any other than a translucent water or transparent watercolor, your work ceases to become a true watercolor, and that's that perhaps is still, you know, a thing if you are considering entering some shows and some galleries, but pretty much nowadays anything goes. And I mean, even if you signed your watercolor with a micron pen or a Sharpie or anything that wasn't a translucent watercolor, technically some people would say that that would cease to become a true watercolor. Here we're just we're painting for the sheer joy of it, and I say if it brings you joy and it makes your painting a little brighter, a little more unique, I say do what you need to do what feels right. But I do love how that little bit of white in there just gives some life to the water. And I will continue on with this, you know, adding a bit more of that as we go along. I don't want to overdo it. I don't want it to become like a pattern with a lot of extra white, but just random here and there, little places where a little bit of the white might enhance the painting. Here's one I played with earlier, and it was an exercise that I had done in a class with Michael Soloviev this last spring, and yeah, very heavy, very dark. I've got some white in the cloud area. I don't mind that. Still, I put a bit you know, too much pigment in the top, but down here it was so intense and so dark, and so I just went in and I added, and I even put some white in the trees to try to brighten it up, and I think it does make a nice difference. And last but not least, this one has a fair bit of white in it, but I just found that when I looked at it after I had done it, some of this rocky area in the front was just a bit intense, a bit heavy, and I thought perhaps a little bit of white somewhere in here just to enhance a little bit. And there's a tiny bit of white showing through. I just want to play on that a bit and carry it through a bit further. A little bit of white there, that's kind of nice. Lighten a bit of these shrubs. And it's just a nice way to I don't know, to kind of bring in a bit more dimension. Sometimes things can look a bit flat when there's so much intense color. So by just some light strokes. And that would be, you know, probably all I would want to do. I left a bit of white in the background there coming through. I like that. I might echo that a tiny bit down in here. After I've given it some thought, it's good to sit and think about it for a bit. Take a photograph. That's very helpful for me. When I think I've got my painting to a point where I'm pretty happy with it, I will take a photograph, step away, go have a cup of tea or make dinner, and sit down later and look at the photograph. And pretty much always it will be glaringly in front of you if there's something that needs to be done or added to. We do a lot of birch trees here in my studio, and these are, you know, places where you can always add a bit more white. You can leave the lines showing like that, or you can blend them through. Just sometimes a nice way to add just a few more little highlights. It's also a nice option for spatter. And we've talked about spatter in the past. I'm just going to move these out of the way because we don't maybe want to get so much spatter on those. Pardon me. A toothbrush, and I'm just going to turn this over. And I'm just going to put a bit of spatter in this bottom corner, perhaps. So what I'll do is I'll take the white on the toothbrush and give it a little spatter. And because it's opaque, it will stay white and give that little bit of extra texture to the surface of your painting. If you make a mess, it cleans up with water. I will wipe this again with water in a few moments when I'm done, and that will all come off. And now I just want to do this other side, just to keep that spatter kind of going on both sides. And there. So it's very effective. I like that it can just add a bit of pop, a bit of life to what you're doing. And yeah, it comes right off. So it's lovely to work with. And I think it just adds a bit of pop to, you know, to bring back some of that whiteness that sometimes we forget to incorporate into our paintings. So you get a chance, give it a try. Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleedproof White comes in a little jar like this. I'm guessing that this little jar would probably last forever. It's a great little product to have, easy to apply. Use whatever tools are at your disposal. I have often used, I don't even know where it's here, little toothbrush things if you want to find a fine surface. A fine-tipped paintbrush will also work well. Find what works best for you in whatever way you want to apply it, and have some fun with it. It's a way to, as I say, to brighten up some of those paintings that you might have thought were kind of doomed. So I'm glad you were here today to explore this with me as we talked about how to brighten your paintings up a little bit. And thanks for joining me. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe to my channel. Visit my website, bandrystudio.com, that's BANDRAOI studio.com, or pop on over to my membership area where there's some fun things happening soon.